Hi, I'm Arun George, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we'll look at the plan to bring back thousands of Indians who are stranded abroad. But first, we'll look at how a central government decision caused the West Bengal government to alter its strategy in how it dealt with COVID 19. During the 40-day nationwide lockdown to slow the spread of COVID 19, the central government created 10 interministerial central teams, or IMCTs, to tour certain districts in states. These teams were sent to states like West Bengal, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Madhya Pradesh. But in no state did the team meet with as much opposition as in West Bengal. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee accused the team of hampering efforts, and her party, the Trinamool Congress, said the move was against the spirit of federalism. Deeptiman Tiwari, who covers the Ministry of Home Affairs, explains why the teams were created and the reaction to it.
Look, the center initially formed 6 interministerial central teams to be sent to 4 states of Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal, because the center said in its order that they had received inputs of large-scale violation of lockdown guidelines in certain districts of these states. And it was important to monitor the progress of COVID containment measures, the healthcare systems, the robustness of the healthcare system, and how lockdown was being enforced, and to ensure that basically the coronavirus infection did not spread too fast in these regions, because they said that the reports coming from these districts were bad. So on the face of it, the IMCTs formed were with the intention of improving the performance of the states in containing the spread of the virus, and to help them and give them expert guidance on how to go about it. However, the matter became quickly politicized after the very initial announcement. Later, 4 more teams were sent to different states such as Telangana, Tamil Nadu, and Gujarat. However, what happened in the beginning is, with the constitution of IMCTs, there were also political statements made by the BJP in West Bengal. And certain very hostile statements were made by the party in West Bengal about the Mamata Banerjee government. This put the Mamata Banerjee government on the back foot, and then they hit back, saying that this was against the spirit of federalism, sending such teams. It was also pointed out that how the first 6 teams were constituted to look at deficiencies in 3 opposition-ruled states in the first place. And there were more than half a dozen districts in West Bengal which is going to polls next year.
Ravik Bhattacharya, who covers the state of West Bengal for the Indian Express, says the state government's reaction to the creation of the central team was almost instantaneous.
Now, on April 21, it was when 2 interministerial central teams, or IMCTs, which landed in Kolkata. There was a very strongly worded letter on the same day sent by Union Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla to our State Chief Secretary Rajiv Sinha. That was a kind of watershed in the COVID fight in Bengal. Now, why I'm saying this is that initially there was a very harsh reaction regarding the unceremonious way in which the central team was sent. The state government claimed that after the central team landed in Kolkata airport, they were notified. The letter was received. And later on, apart from the state government, even Trinamool Congress leaders, they started to criticize it on very sharp terms, the sending of the central teams. For example, Derek O'Brien, who's the Trinamool Congress parliamentary party leader in Rajya Sabha, was on quote saying that the real aim is to spread the political virus, doing it shamelessly. And he called the IMCT as India's most callous team. So there was a lot of criticism pouring over from both the state government as well as the ruling Trinamool Congress party when the central team arrived.
So after they landed, what did the central teams say about West Bengal? We asked Deeptiman to explain.
In a letter written to the Chief Secretary of West Bengal, the IMCT team that visited Kolkata and Howrah and certain other districts, it was headed by Ministry of Defense Additional Secretary Apurv Chandra. He's written in his letter that the mortality rate in West Bengal is at 12.8, and that is highest in the country. And he said it shows that the state was doing poor surveillance, that there was low testing, that there was not adequate tracking of contacts of COVID patients, And he said that it showed deficiencies in COVID containment measures of the state, and also accused it of not only non-cooperation with the IMCT, but also suggested that it was fudging the data initially. However, it also commended the state for improving its performance over the past couple of weeks, and said that it has now started giving daily update of COVID deaths, and there is real-time data, and the testing also has improved from 400 per day to 2,400 per day. So it commended the state on those measures that were taken in the past couple of weeks. However, it said that it was totally non-cooperative. The team was not allowed to meet state bureaucrats. They were not given any logistical support to move around, go to visit all the places that they wanted to. And they were largely on their own using BSF vehicles. Unfortunately, a driver of one of those vehicles, which was transporting Apur Chandra's team, has also tested positive for COVID-19. And some 50 people from the BSF have been put in quarantine there in West Bengal.
Raviq says that before the central team landed and following its arrival, there was a visible change on ground.
The government's reaction or the government's way of handling COVID spread in Bengal started almost the same day when the central team landed. By the same day, we have seen Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee visiting various parts of Kolkata. She started to visit various parts of Kolkata.
थोड़ा कोरोना का ज्यादा हुआ, इसी के लिए हम लोग को थोड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन लेने पड़ते हैं आप लोगों को अच्छा रखने के लिए.
She was urging them not to leave their homes. She was urging them to, maintain social distancing. She was talking about do's and don'ts and how the state government is with the people, not to crowd up in the markets, all this. This started on the same day when the central teams arrived. That is on April 21. By April 22, we saw that a number of places which were earlier hotspots, but somehow stringent measures were not taken. But on April 22, we saw Kolkata police just shutting down the containment areas in Kolkata, Howrah, Purbo Mednipur, and North 24 Parganas. Then the 4 red zones of Bengal. In Kolkata, we have seen areas like Belgachia, Narkaldanga, Park Circus, Metia Buruj, Raja Bazar. Police pickets were set up. Guardrails were put on every lanes and bylanes, blocking movement of people in and out of that area. So this started almost on the same day or the day after, taking stringent measures on the ground level. Markets which were crowded, police were seen, speaking to the people in loudspeaker in markets and trying to enforce social distancing in a very strict manner. This happened. By the way, I should mention this, that the Trinamool Congress protested in a way saying that since Bengal had a very low count of infected people, what was the necessity of sending 2 teams in a state like this? Whereas at that point of time, Gujarat, the numbers were spiking and there was no central team sent.
Raviq says that things changed rapidly after the central team arrived and a more proactive approach was adopted by the state government. He spoke about how the state government allowed private and public hospitals to treat any patient for COVID-19. He also said the number of deaths due to COVID-19 began rising in the state's official figures.
A number of controversial documents also tumbled up. For example, there was this rooster signed by the medical superintendent of Murshidabad Medical College and Hospital, issued on April 25, which actually stated in case of, I'm just quoting it, in case of COVID positive, no mention of COVID in the death certificate. Now, this raised a number of issues and then later on, he was transferred. The medical superintendent was transferred and the government should have rejoined that no, this was a one-time mistake. Even the CM said that we have to correct ourselves because we make mistakes. We are not experts and small mistakes, clerical mistakes will happen. So overall, there was this sense of rectification and pulling up one's socks, which coincided with the visit of the central teams, their movements. Though there was a lot of controversy, the central teams alleged that they were not being allowed to move out, non-cooperation. They wrote around 7 letters which were not answered. So these things were going on. Finally, the day when the central team left our state, there was a sea change of sending reports. Death audit committee was almost made defunct because during the press conference, it was said that the doctors in the hospital will be now empowered to write death certificate instead of depending on the death audit committee, which will not see all the cases. In fact, it made sure that transparency in writing death certificates of COVID-19 patients are in place. So this is how the state government, slowly in the span of just the last couple of weeks, there's a sea change in handling COVID-19.
But despite the change, does the state government maintain the creation of the team was a political vendetta?
West Bengal government still maintains, even in a number of press conferences, it has been mentioned that it's a kind of vendetta. They're creating pressure on West Bengal. They are trying to show West Bengal in a poor light. Another very interesting case. See, earlier West Bengal accounted for pretty less number of testing. Now, this was criticized by a whole other section of doctors, by the opposition political parties. Around 400 to 450 tests were done on an average in a single day. But very significantly, on April 21, just when the IMCTs landed, there was this spike of testing suspected COVID-19 patients. Initially, it was 800, almost double, 800 to 850. And yesterday, the last reports that was 2,455 per day. So there's a huge jump in this past 2 weeks, a huge jump in the number of tests that was there. But the state government still maintains that sending of the central teams were unacceptable. Even today, there was this press conference when Trinamool Congress highlighted that, see, on one hand, people criticized us when we put out death figures with comorbidity. But even now, in the central data system, the central press releases which come out, or health bulletins which come out, the number of deaths, the center has already highlighted the 70% are comorbidity. So the state, it wasn't somehow right in putting up comorbidity cases. So it is there. The state government has yet, because the state government has also alleged regarding the low number of tests, putting the onus on the center, saying that the number of kits were insufficient. First of all, the number of kits were insufficient. Less number of kits were sent for Bengal, allegedly. Then the rapid testing kits which were sent were found faulty, so the center withdrew it. So overall, still state government as well as Trinamool Congress, including our chief minister, maintains that it was the onus of the center. It was this bungling of the center which did not provide us with testing kits, which did not provide us with PPEs, personal protective garments, with masks, gloves, adequate number of PPEs.
So how has the central government reacted to allegations that the creation and functioning of the teams was political? Here's what Deeptiman had to say.
Well, the central government has maintained that its intentions are absolutely noble. It has issued statements to the effect that, look, the teams that we have sent are drawn from Ministry of Health and other experts are there in those teams. They are only going to help states in dealing with the crisis that they are facing. We are only trying to help them. We are only trying to improve their performance. They also pointed out that it's West Bengal which is politicizing the matter, because none of the other states have actually said anything and they are cooperating with the IMCT team, whereas West Bengal is not even letting them go out in the field, not letting them meet bureaucrats, not giving them any logistical support, to move around in the state, to visit hospitals, to visit affected areas. So the center said that we are not politicizing it.
So what happens now with the central teams?
Well, the central teams, most of the central teams have now returned from the respective states that they had gone to, and they will be submitting their report to the center on their final observations of what lacks, what needs to be done, what is the performance on various counts of each and every state. However, let's see, it would be interesting to compare the observations of all these IMCTs sent to both BJP-ruled and opposition-ruled states as to how they compare the performance of opposition-ruled states with those of the BJP-ruled states.
And finally, Ravik says the much-needed transparency in West Bengal gives a clearer picture of the situation in the state.
See, finally, if you come to this day, you would see that a lot of things, after the small changes which the state government took up in its fight to COVID-19, at present there are a total of 140 COVID deaths, including comorbidity in Bengal. The total number of cases is 1259. So it makes Bengal almost a state which has almost the highest death rate in the nation. And right now, per day, COVID tests are around 2455, which is a sea change compared to 400 or 450, which used to happen, 3 weeks back. So in a way, setting up special COVID hospitals, setting up quarantine centers, Bengal, it is not that Bengal was not doing things right. But somehow there was this anomalies of numbers. There was this a little bit mismanagement at the grassroots level and hospitals, between the state health department and the hospital coordination. There was this lack of coordination. So the state government has now surpassed to a great extent. And though the figures are still very high, death rate is highest in the country, but state government is trying its best to, cope up and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the state.
From Thursday, India will start bringing back hundreds of Indians who have been stranded abroad. The first phase of Vande Bharat mission involves bringing back Indians in naval ships and Air India aircraft. Shubhajit Roy, who covers India's foreign affairs for the Indian Express, breaks down the operation for us. So to start, Shubhajit, could you tell us how many Indians are being brought back and from where?
So the issue here is that there are about 1.4 crore Indian passport holders who live overseas. But not everyone obviously is stranded. So people who have expressed interest is somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 lakh. From Gulf alone, there are more than about 3 lakh people who have registered. Now you have to understand, out of 1.4 crore Indians who live abroad, about 80 to 90 lakh live in the Gulf region alone. So the bulk of the evacuation is focused from these Gulf countries, that is UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain. And these are a mix of blue-collar workers as well as white-collar workers. The other countries from where people are being brought in are UK, US, and some parts of Southeast Asia, which is Singapore and Malaysia. So these are the broad pockets which are from where people are being brought in the first phase. In the first phase, the target is to bring about 15 to 16,000 people in the first week, which is starting tomorrow, and through 64 flights from about 13 countries. And this has been prioritized as per the immediacy, or the criteria that is being spelled out is people who are in distress and are stranded. So essentially, it will include workers who have been laid off in the Gulf, or elderly people, then people with medical emergency, then pregnant women. Then there are also people who are facing deportation. For example, you went to that particular country on a short-term visa for tourism or business, and then because of the lockdown, you couldn't come back, and your visa is expiring in a few days or has already expired. So these are the people who will be given priority, and then the others will be taken into account.
So Shubhajit, why did the government wait this long? Other governments have been taking back their citizens from India. What took the Indian government so long to start bringing back Indians stranded abroad?
So initially, because the lockdown was imposed, the idea was because the cases in India, they started with what is called imported cases, essentially from people who traveled to China or other countries which were affected, and they came to India. So India imposed a lockdown where it stopped flights from overseas coming to India, and also domestic travel then was also stopped. But at that point of time, the reasoning was that we have to flatten the curve and reduce the number of cases. So there was a ban on flights coming and bringing Indians from these overseas countries after the lockdown would have contributed to the rise in the number of cases. And the Indian government felt that India probably was not prepared enough, and it needed time to prepare itself in terms of quarantine facilities, in terms of PPE kits, which is protective gear, in terms of hospital beds. So now, after 45 days, the assessment is that the governments have prepared enough, have the capacity to quarantine these people, because once these people land, they have to be put on a 14-day quarantine. Of course, only those Indians who are asymptomatic, they will be brought, and there will be a medical screening when they are boarding the flight or the ship. But once they come here, then in India, they will undergo the rapid test or the RT-PCR test to confirm whether they are COVID positive or not. And accordingly, their course of action is decided. Because of the capacity issue, it delayed this decision, and now the repatriation process will start.
Do we know how much the Indian government is spending on this operation, or whether the passengers will have to pay for their own ticket?
So what is happening is the Indian government is coordinating with the defense forces as well as the Air India, civil aviation. So Air India is running the flights, and Ministry of Defense as of now through the Indian Navy has pressed 3 naval ships. Now, the flights will definitely be paid for. Both these facilities will be paid for. So Air India will charge, say, for example, 1 lakh rupee for a passenger for him or her to fly down from the US to India, which for a one-way ticket is a fairly competitive price if you go through a normal flight ticket process. Then different destinations have a different price band. So from UK, if someone is coming from London, he or she will have to pay 50,000 rupees. Similarly, from the Gulf countries, it ranges somewhere between 15 to about 25,000 rupees. And from Southeast Asia, it's again the similar range, 15 to 20,000. From Bangladesh, it's about 12,000 rupees per person. So in that sense, Air India has worked out this slab of tickets and it will be ticketed and passengers will have to pay. What the government has also done is there are a lot of Indians who are OCI card holders who are also stranded in India who cannot get back to the US, UK or Gulf or any of these countries. Now, while these flights take off from India, they are not going empty. So people who have possibly have a job in the US or have some project in the US or they have families in the US. So these people, or if an Indian, for example, a family member is sick, has a medical emergency, or there's been a death in the family overseas. So those Indians will also be taken and prioritized and taken on these flights, which will be going to these countries to evacuate them. So the Air India will charge from those guys also. The same price structure, fare structure has been worked out. For Navy ships, it's interesting that Navy never has always evacuated, but it gets paid part of its evacuation operation. For the first time, possibly they will be charging a basic, reasonable cost from people who board these Navy ships and bring Indians, mainly right now from 2 destinations, from Dubai and from Maldives. The passengers will have to pay for the tickets to come back to India.
You were listening to 3 Things by The Indian Express. Today's show, as always, was edited and mixed by our producer Joshua Thomas. If you like the show, then do subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a rating or review. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet to us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.